Just so everybody's aware of that. Okay, so we're now in public session, so can I move on to the draft minutes and refer members to the draft minutes of proceedings at pages 337 to 342 of the meeting pack? Are members content that the draft minutes of the meeting of 5th of December are a true reflection of the proceedings? Content? Any matters arising? None? Okay, so item number 7 on the agenda, which is committee work planning and an update on that. Can I refer members to pages 344 to 348 of our meeting pack and page 18 of the table pack, and ask Chris, Senior Assistant Clerk, to speak to this particular item.
Thank you, Chair. So members might recall that back in September the committee agreed a series of actions on a number of identified proposals and published EU acts following a prioritisation and planning exercise. The table that starts at page 345 in your pack sets out a brief progress update on each of those actions. You'll note that most of those actions have now already been completed, but there is one set of upcoming actions that I would like to draw the attention of members to. At item 2 in the table, which is the proposal on packaging and packaging waste, you'll see at the top of the second page there that the committee agreed to take a number of steps whenever the text of that proposal is formally adopted. So namely to commission legal and departmental briefings, to write to the UK government and request an updated EM as soon as possible, and to seek the views of stakeholders via Citizen Space. And at the time we had agreed a 4-week deadline for response on that. Now we understand that the text of that proposal is set to be formally adopted on Monday of next week, and after that it will need to be signed by the presidents of both the Parliament and the Council before it's published in the Journal. The Act could be signed in the margins of next week's European Parliament plenary, and while normally we wouldn't expect that the text would be published until a few weeks after that, it is possible that it could be published next week as well, so signed and published next week. Based on the timings for the EU acts that we've monitored to date, that seems very unlikely, and we usually expect that it would be published in mid to late January, but we can't totally rule out that it would be published this side of Christmas. If it was to be published this side of Christmas, we would therefore expect to receive a notification on Thursday the 2nd of January. So regardless of that, provided the text is agreed on Monday, we can follow most of the actions that were previously agreed on that, in terms of requesting our updated EM as soon as possible and scheduling our legal and departmental briefings for our first meeting back on the 9th of January. If we were to receive a notification on the 2nd of January, we would be doing that anyway at that meeting. Otherwise, it would just allow us a chance to consider that evidence slightly in advance of a notification and then invite legal advisors and officials back for any sort of possible follow-up. The trickier element of it is in relation to the Citizen Space survey. So as members will know, the committee is obliged to engage with business and civil society as part of an inquiry process, and the committee's approach thus far has been for us to do that by way of launching the Citizen Space inquiry or Citizen Space survey after an inquiry has been initiated. The rationale this time behind seeking to launch the survey slightly earlier was to aim to have a little bit more information at our disposal at the point of making a decision, and also to allow stakeholders a longer period of time to give that response. That being said, with the timings of this text being finalised just before Christmas, and the possibility, however remote it might be, that we could receive a notification on the 2nd of January, it means that we wouldn't really in practice be able to provide stakeholders with a longer window of time to respond, and we'd be unlikely to gather much, if any, information over that period before the committee may need to take a decision. So with that in mind, in relation to the Citizen Space survey, it might prove more straightforward to simply revert back to our normal approach with this one and agree to launch a survey in the event that an inquiry is initiated. But I'll pause there, and I know Chair would welcome the views of you and members on whether they're content with that approach.
Okay. Anybody, any views on it? No? I think it's reasonable and sensible, so I think we'll go ahead with that, Chris.
Great, thanks. So just to confirm then, we'll go ahead with most of our actions as normal, so provided that the text is agreed on Monday, we will write to the UK Government and request an updated EM, and we'll schedule those legal and departmental briefings for the first meeting back in January. Just one final update then on our work planning that members will wish to note, and it relates to the EU deforestation regulation. It's item 4 in the table. On the 25th of November, members considered a response from the UK Government which indicated that the Commission planned to delay the first of a series of implementation deadlines within that regulation and delay that deadline by 12 months until the 30th of December 2025. You'll note from page 18 of your tabled papers that we've received further correspondence from the Cabinet Office on this one yesterday, and that indicates that an EU regulation is set to be adopted next week, which essentially just gives effect to that 1 year delay of that deadline. Because we're fast approaching the 30th of December, it'll need to be published on an emergency basis no later than the 27th of December. And the Cabinet Office expects, therefore, to be notifying us in relation to that delaying regulation on the 2nd of January as well. And as normal, we would consider that as at our meeting on the Thursday, the 9th of January. So no action required on that, but it's just to make members aware of that anticipated notification. And no further update from me, Chair.
Okay, Chris, thank you very much. Everybody content? Yes. Okay, thank you. So moving on then, correspondence. Item 8.1, page 350 of our pack is correspondence from Minister for the Economy in response to a request to meet with myself and David to discuss officials' attendance at committee meetings to provide assessments of EU acts, regardless of whether a policy area is reserved or not. So we are confirming dates for a meeting after Christmas. The 7th of January looks like it's the likely date, so that's just for information. Members will be updated after the meeting there. At 8.2, page 351 is an updated EM on Regulation 2024-2847 on cyber resilience. Are members content that the updated EM is published on our webpage? Thank you. So, no chair's business. Item number 10, any other business? No. Date, time and place of next meeting is next Thursday. Are members content because next week's meeting is really just a short meeting to confirm the reports on the basis of our conclusions today once the staff have fixed them up. So is everybody content that we can do that via Microsoft Teams?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So information and links obviously will be sent out. So thank you very much. That's just I was going to say that's the last meeting of 2024, but it's not. So I wish you a happy Christmas next week. Yeah. Okay, meeting adjourned.
Committee Room 30, sound.